If better health is one of the things that you are focusing on right now or would like to focus on, you are going to want to listen to this episode where I am talking with Heidi Villegas, and she is so smart when it comes to herbs and essential oils and really all kinds of natural homeopathic ways of caring for ourselves, preventing problems, treating problems and symptoms. She is so smart when it comes to these things. And we have an amazing conversation where, again, she breaks things down, makes them simple for us to understand, gives us some great places to start, some great things to think about and consider. If better health is on your radar, this is going to be an episode of the Intentional Mom podcast you are going to want to make sure to listen to. So, with that, let's dive in and see what Heidi has to share with us today. Well, hey there, I am Jennifer Roskamp, a certified life coach and homeschool mom of 9 who is passionate about helping women just like you embrace the here and now while also being focused on creating the life you actually want. In reality, it's not about thinking life will get so much better or so much easier when you fill in the blank. Let's work on creating a life you love now. So let's dive in and get started on redefining Supermom to be someone who is present, intentional, and content rather than perfect in our homes, in our lives, and in our own skin. Let's get started. This is the Intentional Mom Podcast. We have an expert here in all things homeopathic and all things oils and herbs. This is Heidi Villegas, and she is the founder of the School of Botanical Arts and Sciences and Healing Harvest Homestead. She is a certified clinical aromatherapist, herbalist, career teacher, gardener, and homesteader. As a teacher, she's gifted at speeding up the learning processes. Sign me up for that, right? For her herbalism students, and she loves watching them grow and create their own custom home apothecaries. Heidi is also a grandmother of 6 beautiful grandchildren, 2 here for me, and she realizes children are our future when she's not in the garden teaching an online or in-person class or in the chicken coop or barn. She loves leaving a legacy of herbal knowledge. Please help us with that and self-reliance by spending time with the grandkids in her medicinal herb gardens. So welcome, Heidi. I'm so excited that you are here.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. This is so fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us a little bit about your journey with using oils and other natural options, herbs, solutions, remedies? How did you get started in all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, almost 60 right now, but when I grew up back in the 60s and the 70s, I grew up with normal parents who basically gave me a pill for everything because that's what everybody did then and still does mostly. And as I emerged into my young adulthood, I started having problems like rosacea on my face, which is a type of acne. And then later on, all the doctors did for you then, and they still do now, is give you an antibiotic. And I ended up with constant urinary tract infections, constant yeast infections. Hopefully that's not TMI. Um,
Most of us are women. I
know.
get it.
Exactly. And because those are all side effects of what's going on in your body. I didn't understand this. And so for decades, literally decades, I struggled with all of these health issues. And then I had a sports injury and I hurt my back. And basically high blood pressure, all of the things. And finally, I ran across a doctor who clued me in about a natural potential remedy for my rosacea, other than those drugs that harm your liver, like Accutane and the antibiotics. And it was a blue light thing. And I said, well, sign me up. And at that time, I was a single school teacher with children at home. But I was desperate and I had to pay out of pocket for it because the insurance company wouldn't cover it because it wasn't a drug. And, big pharma. And so, but it worked. It worked.
Wow.
My
That
skin.
is so intriguing.
Yeah. After that. Oh,
I
go
have
ahead.
no idea you came to it that way because I am a 3-timer on Accutane. That was, that I totally relate to that. So, but it is so exciting that there is that there is other options. And so I know like you're speaking the language of so many women who are here, and I know that there are many women who love the idea of more natural and homeopathic ways of being and getting healthy, but I know firsthand how that sometimes, a lot of times, that can feel kind of overwhelming or daunting or scary, and like it's this big huge undertaking. So is it really a big deal to start with some of these things? It feels like, oh my gosh, how would I know? Are we crazy because we might be thinking that?
No, not at all. Not at all. So I have not been on any over the counter or prescription drugs for anything, including I healed at my lower back problems in over 10 years, probably more like 12. It's been a very long time. And here's when I started, I came across this herbalism book and I made a tincture. I made a mullein and marshmallow, those are herbs, a tincture. And my allergies went away over a period of time because of that tincture. And I was like, this stuff works. And so what happened with my learning was I just kept making things that worked.
So you just
And
kept kind of having a problem. Let me see what I can find in the natural remedy world that could help that. I'll try it, see how it goes. So it's kind of learn based on need for you.
exactly. And a lot of my students come to me that way too. Here's the unfortunate thing. I really try to encourage people to go the natural route early on before they end up on all the drugs. Because once you start on those prescription drugs, what happens is the doctors want to give you more drugs for the side effects and then more drugs for the side effects. And then all of a sudden, you're on 5 to 10 different prescription medications. And then all of a sudden, you're feeling terrible. Your body is not able to handle that. And you feel sick all the time. And that's when people tend to come into herbalism and essential oil use. They're desperate for something else. And it's like me, if I had known what I know now back then, if I had been raised by a hippie mom, who was into all of this stuff,
Yeah.
then I would have been so much healthier at a
Yeah.
young age. And I would have been able to teach my children better too. And so, I'm like the weird mom who's talking to my kids about herbs and essential oils. And some of them are saying, yes, this sounds great. But some of them are like, Mom, you're a weirdo. And so, this is a legacy that you leave for your
Yeah.
kids. I know I'm off track on that question, but
That's okay.
um,
That's okay, but you hit on some really good things. So I mean, it sounds like the world is endless. If I were to ask you what are the benefits of using herbs and oils and natural things, but is there a way that you can give us like 3 to 5 like really big
mhm.
benefits to your health by going that route?
Absolutely, I sure can. So the first thing is you're going to save a ton of money.
Okay.
Okay, my husband and I actually talked about how much money we've saved in the past, you know, probably 15, 20 years, and it's in the tens of thousands of dollars. Um, Drugs we haven't had to take. There's an upfront investment, of course, like herbs and essential oils and learning. Costs. Everything's an investment that's valuable, but money saving, hands down. Another one is that we're not experiencing the side effects. So medicinal herbs and essential oils tend to balance your body. And I want you to think about this for a moment. So drug companies go in and they take one constituent, one chemical that they perceive as the active chemical out of a plant. The salicin and willow bark is an example. Then they turn that into a drug that you put into your body. And now all of a sudden you have side effects, which, by the way, there are a lot of side effects with aspirin and ibuprofen and Tylenol. In fact, acetaminophen is the number one killer of liver disease, people with liver disease. But anyway, what happens though is this is my belief system. God, and I'm a Christian, but he created all the plants perfectly. He created us perfectly. And all of those plants have sometimes up to thousands of different chemicals that work together and interact together. And those chemicals in the plant alleviate the side effects. That's why I can take willow bark tincture or a tea and have the same effects as the aspirin. And I'm actually supporting my body's health instead of my poor body going, what is this, strange chemical here that's hurting me? So there are fewer side effects with medicinal herbs and essential oils. And then another one, so that's two, they actually work better. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. I've seen over and over and over students, clients, myself, achieving really great health on the herbs and essential oils that you don't get with the drugs. The medical system, and I'm not against doctors, by the way. I have lots of doctors in my family. My daughter's even going to medical school.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I'm not against them, but there's a time and place. They're great at diagnostics, but drugs tend to cover symptoms. They don't heal your body.
Just
So
kind of mask it.
they mask it. Another thing is I feel like, and this, I just alluded to this, but herbs and essential oils are much safer than prescription medications. And the last thing is self-reliance. So we've all seen the supply chain issues recently. And I
Yeah.
can tell you, oh my gosh, about a couple months ago, I kept getting emails from people, Canada, the United States, the UK. I can't find medicine for my children. All of the children's meds are gone. And
Yeah.
well, you know what? I hadn't been down a drugstore aisle in years. Like don't need to go down there. I literally make all of our own medicines. I walked into the grocery store in our small town, no children's meds. I decided to go into the bigger town close by, walk down that aisle, no children's meds. And the ones that were there were like $35. And I was just going, wow, this is like a true thing that's happening here. So
Yeah.
when you can reach into your cupboard for the herbs and the essential oils that you need, like if you have a headache or if you have a cold or a flu, or if you get sick, or if you just have a health condition like high blood pressure, and you know what to do for your body, then it's at your fingertips. And many of these herbs you can grow. Essential oils are, if you buy them from a good company, they work great. So
Yeah, I never thought of that self-reliance, but yeah, that's certainly something that we've all been introduced to recently. That probably wouldn't have even been on the radar, 3 or 4 years ago, but our radar looks a little bit different now. So that's amazing. So many benefits. Well, I know where would one start? Let's talk to the woman who's here who is like, yes, I want all of those things. I want self-reliance. I want no side effects. I want to be healthier. Where does one start when you're talking about things like essential oils, or when we're talking about things like herbs? What would starting look like? And then also, what would starting small look like?
okay.
Would you say?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you what not to do first. Okay. Because
Probably did.
this is what I see everybody doing.
Yeah.
And I want to just qualify this with the fact that when I started learning about herbs and essential oils, it was before the internet was really like a thing.
Yeah.
And there was no information. What's happened in recent years is that there's too much information, and a lot of it is really bad. So people will get online, they'll find somebody on TikTok sharing a cough syrup recipe or something, and they'll go, I'm going to do that. And then it doesn't work, or it can even hurt them. I've seen some really, really, really dangerous recipes, especially with essential oils online.
Mm-hmm.
So what I suggest is to find maybe 2 or 3 people who have the background and the experience. Please vet them and check into them. And I would follow those people if you want to go the free route. Okay. Knowing that if you go the free route, your journey is going to be very, very slow. It will still happen, but it'll be slow. Or you can find a good teacher who you trust, who has values that are similar to yours, because in the herbalism world and even the essential oil world, there's a lot of new age woo-woo stuff. So I come at things from a Christian perspective. And I just say this because I've watched an awful lot of young people get into Wicca and other endeavors through herbalism. So, it's not that it's a big deal, but you're aware.
So check out what kind of like the person behind it is kind of exactly what you're following.
Exactly. And the other thing is are they science and evidence based? along with, some intuition, and because herbalism and aromatherapy is not just an art, it's also a science.
Mhm.
Or are they, using astrology or something to
Yeah. And
guide?
I would assume that anyone who you might start looking into should have all of their I don't know if that's the right word, but all their, you should easily be able to find out about these people. And if you can't, if they aren't putting it all out there, letting you know where they're getting their information and all of that stuff, that should be a huge red flag, I would imagine, right?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm going to just quickly share a couple things. Herbalism is technically it's illegal in the United States. Big Pharma, the FDA, and the American Medical Association got together back in the 1940s, and they actually crushed herbalism. At that time, herbalism was a legitimate medical practice, and they made it go away. And talked, how the propaganda is. That's when all the pill things started, like very, very heavily. So herbalism these days is something that's very non-medical. If you hear somebody talking about treating a disease, curing something, preventing something, using those medical type words, working with patients instead of clients, that's a red flag right there. That
Mm.
tells you that they haven't even probably taken a course, because that's one of the
So
first things.
listening for medical terminology. We should
Yeah,
keep our ears tuned to that.
you're going to hear some strange language when you get into herbalism and even aromatherapy. We talk in terms of supporting the body. So just listening to how the person speaks. And also, you're right, Jennifer, the person on their website, like if you go to their about page, you should have some kind of background there about where they got their education. I know mine, I should probably put mine higher up. Mine's down at the bottom, but I have a whole list of institutions and schools that I've gone through at this point. The other thing is that if somebody tells you they're a certified herbalist, uh, that doesn't mean anything. There is no such thing as a certified herbalist or a master herbalist in the United States. So uh, that's just because it's not a legal thing. So you can get a certification from a school, like I offer a family herbalist certification, but that doesn't make you a certified herbalist. So if somebody's calling themselves a certified herbalist, it's a kind of a little bit of a red flag, but people like that word because it tells them that they have some kind of an education. Now, aromatherapy is different. Aromatherapy is recognized as an alternative health practice in the United States. And certifications for aromatherapy are legitimately recognized too. So
Okay.
you've got, and I just wanted to say one other thing about that, and then we can go on. But you have 3 levels of aromatherapy. Level 1 certification, and people don't have to say what level they are.
Yeah.
So just this for knowledge. If somebody has only taken a level 1, they have only got like 100 and some odd hours of education. Now, level 2 is a professional aromatherapist, and at that level, there's about 400 or 500 hours.
Yeah.
It's a lot more in depth.
Yeah.
And then there's clinical after that. And so you
Okay.
it's good to ask questions.
Yeah, I would imagine asking a lot of really good big questions and clarification, asking for clarification anytime something doesn't seem quite, like what exactly are you saying? Like I would imagine there should be a willingness to explain, that sort of thing. So, wow, those are great tips. So, I know that, when I think about when I and I'm not in I have only dipped my toe in the water ever so slightly, but I know that the time involved to learn and implement these kinds of things, um, again, because it's kind of an unknown, right? Like you're talking about how it's not even legal here in the United States for herbalism. So I mean, it's something that is not like you're talking about using a different sort of language. Like it's not part of our language. So when we think about working and getting to know some of this stuff, the idea of having to learn a whole new language and having to learn all of these things, it can keep some of us paralyzed and kind of like, well, what is the time? How much time is it going to take me to start feeling, like I know at least a little bit of what I'm doing? What is is there any way you can quantify like a time commitment to what it would take to kind of get started and then to kind of continue learning? What kind of time would be involved? Is there any way to quantify that at all?
A little bit, yeah. So obviously, we all have different schedules and we all have different numbers of hours we can apply. And the more you can apply to your learning, the faster you're going to learn. So, with that said, there are different kinds of schools and courses out there. Some of them most of them, especially the online ones, you basically purchase this course and you work through it on your own. It's self study and there's no support. And that's kind of how I got started myself, and it takes forever. So I just want to say that that takes a long time. When I started my school, what I decided, and I was a public school teacher for 30 years, while I was learning all this, and then
Yeah.
prior to what I'm doing now. But when I opened my school, I realized that there's such a huge learning curve, and I have this mission. I would love to see an herbalist or an aromatherapist, or a better yet, a combination in every extended family fast, because I just feel like things are happening in the world right now that are very strange. But what I do in my school is I am personally there. Like, I help people. I have, there's two different courses or avenues, a membership and a course people can take who come into my school. And I show up every single week for live Q&As, and I answer their questions. So with the Ditch the Drugstore course, which is the family herbalist course, the goal is to get your customized home apothecary up and going in about 6 to 8 weeks. People who are able to, just apply a few hours a week can do that. It literally takes moments to make an herbal or an aromatic preparation. This lotion literally took, 5 minutes. A spray, 5 minutes.
It sounds encouraging though that you're saying like 2 or 3 or 4 hours a week, and in
Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks, I can start replacing some of the over the counter and some of these things that we've always been using. That's encouraging to me. Like that is exactly what I wanted to hear, because I want to know, you know what, it's not going to take you that long to learn some of these things and to feel confident, right? Like that's a piece of it too, is feeling like that is a big thing when we're talking about putting things in our bodies and putting things in our kids' bodies. Like, as
Yes.
moms, I know we want to, and even for ourselves, we want to have that confidence. And it sounds like it doesn't take that long. Again, as long as you do your research, you're using a reputable school, reputable programs like the one amazing programs that you have. As long as we're doing that, it really doesn't take that long to start gaining some skills. And I would imagine it's an ongoing learning, right? Like, this is never going to be anything that you check off and you say, there, I know everything there is to know about this, right? Like, like, you're still learning, correct? I would assume.
Absolutely. You never stop learning. You're never going to know it all. And that's the fun part of it. I mean, it's still such a joy. Oh my goodness, this plant does this.
Yeah. And that's aside from, now you already talked about one of the benefits being to save money, but and that's kind of the benefit to going, one of the benefits of oils and herbs and all of that. So, aside from the learning, knowing that it will save some money, is there a way that you can say, like, as you're getting that 6 to 8 weeks, you're going through your program, let's say, and you're getting your feet wet and setting up your home apothecary, education piece aside, just on the things you're going to be purchasing, what kind of cost would be involved in getting a decent, whatever you would consider a beginner, um, resource vault, for instance, full? Like, what would we look for? Maybe like staples or something like that. What would one look at spending?
That's going to depend on the family. And this is a question I get from my students every time I open up a new round of Ditch the Drugstore. So I go through that with them personally.
Mhm.
So I teach people to make things they need. You can buy an herbal or aromatherapy course, and you're going to have all these recipes that some people don't even need them. So I think the key there is to buy the things your family needs, make the things your family needs. And there are inexpensive ways to go about it, or you can buy all the herbs and all the essential oils and end up really wasting money. Um,
Yeah.
if you really need to figure out, first of all, you need to have a plan. Like, what do you actually need to have for your family?
Yeah, and it seems like kind of the way to go about that would be for me to think about, okay, what sorts of things have we been treating for in the
Yeah.
last month? What have we gone to the medicine cupboard for and pulled out medicine for? What has that looked like? I would imagine that would kind of be like if you can approach start kind of doing that inventory, even writing it down. Like, here's the list of all the things that we typically treat for. Like for us, headaches are one of those things, right? Like, I mean, I think that's something that probably most families can say that throughout any given month, there's headache issues. I've got teenage girls, so there's teenage
Oh,
girl.
cramps.
Yeah, there's all of those issues. And then there's the coughs. And then there's, depending on the season. And then in the spring, right? Then there's allergies. So I could probably sit down and I could actually probably do a pretty decent job of just kind of not only thinking about what in the last month, but like kind of thinking about, the cycle of the year, what that looks like in our family, and just kind of thinking about what the different things are that creep up that we tend to need some sort of remedy for. And I could probably do that. Actually, when I first thought about that, I thought, oh my gosh, that feels so overwhelming. But now that I actually think about it, that really isn't that hard for me to think about those things. I could probably sit down in 20 minutes and probably pretty thoroughly map out what a
Yeah.
typical year looks like for us. So that feels totally doable to me just in talking to you. Whereas maybe that didn't feel so doable before. So
Yeah.
that's exciting. So thank you for that. Well,
Yeah.
I've got one last question. So
Okay.
one of
I
the
was
things
gonna
I
say I
like
have a workbook for that too. So
Oh, awesome. One of the questions I like to ask of everybody during this summit is, what is one quick action tip? What would your one, and I know it's so hard to quantify this sometimes, but if you could only give us one quick action, easy to do, easy to implement, easy to get it done and maybe even see a result, what is one quick action tip for someone who wanted to start with anything we've talked about today, whether it's herbs or oils? Where should they start? What is this just one quick win that someone could be like, wow, I've started, right? Because so often starting is the hardest part, but once we can kind of get over the starting, then we're like, okay, now I can keep going. So is there any way to quantify a quick, easy tip?
there is. So I would say start with the essential oils. They're a lot more mainstream than medicinal herbs, and most people have ready access to them. And I would say this, if you're brand new to them, just pick some basics, lavender, lemon, peppermint, maybe some eucalyptus or some frankincense, and depending on if you have little kids or not. You need to be careful with eucalyptus if you have really young kids. But I would go ahead and get a diffuser and just start diffusing in the morning. If you want energy, get your peppermint essential oil and inhale it deeply 2 or 3 times. It's better than a cup of coffee, and I'm not even joking.
Woo, I
Um,
gotta try that. I got peppermint right near the earth. I haven't done that.
it's
I'll be sniffing my peppermint tomorrow.
Yeah, even when you're driving, but when you're ready to go to bed at night, run your diffuser and put some lavender and maybe some lemon in it with it. The citrus oils uplift your mood. Lavender relaxes you. There are chemicals in and this is not a woo-woo thing. Essential oils work because of the chemicals they hold inside of them. It's purely scientific.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you mentioned lemon and lavender together. That's actually my favorite. That's just like my favorite smell. So, I mean, obviously, I know lavender for its relaxation properties, and lemon to me just kind of makes me feel. I don't know if it's like because it has a clean smell, but it's kind of like invigorating a little bit. Just like
Can
I
I
don't know.
talk can I talk a little about the chemistry of lemon?
Yeah,
Just really fast.
yeah.
So there's a chemical called limonene in all the citrus oils. It's very high in lemon. Limonene not only uplifts your mood, it because when you smell your essential oils, those molecules go to the limbic system in your brain. Also, they get into your bloodstream. But limonene uplifts the mood. It also helps get your T cells started in your immune system and boosts it that way. And there's lots of clinical studies that show this. So just diffusing lemon, you're going to be supporting your family's health. It's
Wow.
amazing.
So quick and easy. That is gold right there. That quick and easy tip. Like how easy, just diffuse some lemon. Like, okay, I can do that right now when we
Yeah.
get done here. So that is so amazing. Wow. Thank you so much, Heidi, for sharing that. That was such an amazing introduction and really, I feel like a great conversation where we really took maybe some of the fear, some of the apprehension, some of the confusion out of some of these things that we hear so much about, but really can struggle to know how do we know where to start? How do we know how to understand? And Heidi is such an amazing authority on this. So I am so grateful that I'm so grateful to Heidi for sharing that with us today. So I am so excited for the next episode as well. We're going to be talking about clutter. This is one of the most common struggles I hear about from women all the time. I struggle with clutter. I'm overcome with it. I have no idea where to start. I have no idea how to manage it. Please help. So, if this is you, you are going to want to make sure that you are here for the next episode of the Intentional Mom podcast. We will talk then. Bye bye.